Hello, everyone. Hi. Happy Thursday. I hope you guys are having an amazing day and that this week has been productive and that it had a nice and amazing divine flow. So today I am here with you on a different day. It's a weekday. Usually I'm with you on a Saturday, possibly a Sunday, but I'm here with you during a weekday, and I have a very special guest, and I'm really excited to be able to speak to her. And this is going to be a conversation, a chat with Anna C. Jones G. We're going to be talking about adult play therapy, and we're going to be coming from a different angle about adult play therapy. Thank you so much for joining, Fairy of the Wind 2001. Thank you for joining. We're going to come from a different angle. We're going to come from the angle of play and pleasure. As many of you know, playing as an adult doesn't always involve our dolls. I know it's sad. Oh, we don't want to really think about it because we enjoy our dolls so much, or action figures. But play also involves being able to break out the hula hoop, get your bike out, getting a board game out, whatever the case may be, whatever things bring you pleasure and doesn't hurt anyone. That's what we're talking about, being able to reconnect with your inner child. And everyone knows each inner child enjoys something different. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. If you notice, I got my singing bowl here. Some of you may know I am a certified vinyasa yoga instructor, and digging into that kind of lifestyle is what really had me to, make a connection with purchasing a singing bowl. And this is something that I do use. I don't use it daily. I really do want to get more into the practice of using it daily. But I brought this out today because Anna C. Jones G. is a practitioner of the singing bowl. So I want her to be able to talk to us about that. So I brought this here with me today. The singing bowls that she does show on her page are actually much bigger, which means you get a more resounding sound from it and frequency. So I'm really looking forward to us being able to talk about that. My apologies. You will hear my kids in the back. My husband is not able to be with them today. Hold on real quick. I hardly ever do this, but hold on. All right. So sorry, I had to diffuse a little bit of a situation because I do have 10 kids. That was one of the twins. Please give that back. Please give it back. Okay. Hold on real quick again. Shh. All right. Everything all good? All right. Good job. All right. So everything is now all good. And we were able to get the situation diffused. We're giving out snacks, and anyone who has any kids or little brothers, little sisters, or nephews or nieces, you may know that snack time is wartime. I want more and all this other stuff. I think when we were growing up, we didn't even have snacks. I don't remember having snacks. That's what my husband and I talk about. We're like, we had breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And if mom and dad were busy, you didn't get dinner, okay? You just, you suffered through it. You got, a sandwich and that was it. But now, snacks is a daily requirement somehow, some way. I don't know how things changed, but it did. So, nonetheless, we're talking about play and pleasure today for adults. How do we balance that? How do we make it even happen? I see so many of us, even in our doll community, and we write different things like, I'm sorry I've been MIA, adult life just kind of happened, responsibilities. And we have a lot of responsibilities. We have a lot of priorities. We have to juggle bills. We have to pay bills. We have to work. We have to, take care of our little ones if we have little ones in the picture. If we're entrepreneurs, we got, that's its own baby, right? You have to take care of that. You have to manage personalities of loved ones. You have to manage your own personality. There's so many different things going on, and we're not even talking about on a society scale, just in your interpersonal life. And so being able to really carve out that time for play is not the easiest thing, but it is a necessity. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. And I want to read one page that's an entry from the Adult Play Devotional. And if you have not gotten the Adult Play Therapy Devotional off of Amazon, I do advise you to do it. Not because this is something that I wrote, but because this is something that can really help you on your path and your journey as you play. All right. So on page, well, actually on the 20th entry right here, it says to pick a hobby, something you enjoy. The hobby that you pick should give you pleasure, reduce your stress, possibly be something that you can collect throughout the year, such as dolls, baseball cards, fashion, makeup, hair, books, Bibles or religious books, board games, video games, etc. And through your hobby, you will be able to embrace the fond memories of your childhood. Or if you did not have hobbies as a child, you will now be able to create lasting newfound memories in your adulthood. Is this on Audible? Yeah. Well, actually, it's an ebook. You can get this in hardback or ebook, and Audible is in the future, is in the near future. So right now, that is in the works. But as are the other book projects in the works for Audible, but this is available through ebook as well as hardback on Amazon. So definitely get this. Moon Dolls 94. Thank you so much for joining. So I have Anna C. Jones. I'm going to contact her, Anna C. Jones G, so that we can conversate about adult play therapy. And like I said, I do have my kids with me today. My husband is at work. And as you know, he's usually always with my kiddos, or with our kiddos. And so it does make things a little bit easier. But, you know, life happens. And we scheduled this chat early. So my little ones are going to be probably chatting it up in the background a little bit. They, as you may know, like I said, if you have kids of your own, little brothers, little sisters, nieces, or nephews, you work with kids, their little Energizer battery keeps on going. So you may hear my younger ones, their voice in the background. Yes, he is. He's definitely a great dad. He is. And his presence is definitely missed. Not just as far as with my kids, but just his presence is missed, period. When he goes to work, I close the door. I'm like, I just want to cry. Yeah, I can't wait to get it on ebook and Audible. Thank you. Yes, definitely. Check this out. So I did invite her to the conversation. I don't see her name on here, which means that she hasn't yet logged in. So let's just talk about adult play until she actually logs in to Instagram. Let's talk about adult play therapy. One of the things that I find amazing about what we do is that this is so very just cathartic. And when I talk about cathartic, I'm talking about it is a therapy within itself. I see so many different people use their dolls as ways of just being able to manage certain stressful life situations. And sometimes you don't even have to tell me that it's a situation that you're going through. I can just kind of like read the storyline and I'm like, I get it. I relate to it. And it's so beautiful. So I love that we have this as a tool. And I see Anna on here now. Conversation or introduction to our conversation, as well as talking about adult play therapy and how we are able to really just have therapy through it. Hi, how are you?
Hey, how are you?
Doing good. It's good seeing you.
Good to see you too.
So this is literally our first time talking and meeting together. I connected with you because you had a post about adult play therapy, and I went and checked out your page, and I was like, wow, I love what you're saying. It really does resonate with me as far as this therapeutic side, because I don't really believe that we can play or even find pleasure until we build healthy boundaries, until we remove toxicity. And I love that you talk about positive toxicity and how that within itself can be just as bad as negative toxicity. So we have this conversation today. And I'm really, really thankful that you're allowing me to have your time. How are you today?
I'm doing really well, and I'm excited to have this conversation. I have a lot of thoughts on my mind, so I'm going to do my best to elaborate them and, you know, allow this just like fluidity to happen from my brain to, or from my heart actually, maybe through my brain, and then it'll exit through my mouth. So I'm hoping, and I've set the intention that it'll all come out the way it has to come out. So thank you for having me.
Yes, you and me both. You and me both. I was like setting my intentions like beforehand too. I was like, okay, and I was praying. I was just like in my meditative state as far as just like making sure that everything that we talk about, we cover the bases, and that, we are able to really sink in this this message that adult play is something that's really essential to our humanhood.
Yeah.
I think so often we get caught up in work and in priorities that we don't really allow ourselves the time to pleasure and the time to play. And you may hear my kids in the back. I have 10 kiddos, and usually my husband is with them, but since we scheduled this a little early, he's still at work.
You're totally fine.
So you may hear little tiny voices.
You're totally fine. I think that's one thing that the pandemic gave us, right? Like the ability to just be okay with having kids in the background and dogs barking, and it's like it's life, right? I feel like ever since the pandemic hit, like there has just been these like layers that are being peeled from the human experience. That's just like this is much better. Like I cannot tell you like how relieving it is to just see people peel more and more layers. And I know that this can be really scary because I feel like I think our subconscious is wired to believe that that peeling layers is a bad thing. Like we're being exposed, we're being vulnerable. But in reality, it's like, I wish that we could all see the benefits of peeling the layer. Even if our subconscious is still a little panicky around it, it's like, I really think that the more we talk about things that are actually happening, the more we feel seen and the more we feel validated and just we feel more human. Like it's okay to be us, right? And I don't believe that we should live off of external validation, but I think that there is power on, just like what we're having this conversation right now on play, right? Like it's great to have something common with other people, and it's that Me Too feeling of like, I thought I was the only one, and I'm not.
So true. So true. And when you talk about this Me Too experience, I do understand, Me Too was really, regulated as far as, the sexual abuse that was going on. So I don't want to take it from its original state. But you have such, you're really, really hitting it as far as like the point, as far as Me Too really targeting whatever vulnerability that you have and allowing you to feel security in it. So many of us, just in our doll community, connected through our doll stories. I'm a storyteller. There's other storytellers as well. And so when we would tell certain stories through our characters, someone would say, oh, I went through that. I went through that with my mom. I went through that with a boyfriend, or I had that experience, or I had a miscarriage. And it was just us using our dolls as characters, but yet that story resonated with someone enough to say, me too. And then before you know it, you're DMing each other, you're conversating, and then you're building a relationship from a vulnerable place.
Yeah.
So I love that you said it, because it's so very true.
Yeah. And you know what the interesting thing is? It's like, it's so much easier to build. Well, this is what I've seen in my experience. It's so much easier to connect with someone who has absolutely no history of who you've been and who you are, has no history of like your mistakes, your just like who you were, right? Before you were this age, before you were in this phase of your life. So I think that there is something really beautiful and very powerful of connecting with people in this moment, in this age, in this state of mind where you are right now, that have no knowledge of who you were prior to this moment, because it's a clean slate. It gives you the opportunity to not have to constantly being like, okay, like this is not who I am anymore. Get with the program and get up to who I am. So I think that, these, like you were saying, these virtual connections that we have, they can be really powerful. I mean, I have such deep connections with women that I've never physically met in my life. And it was all because of Instagram and Facebook and social media. So I think that it definitely has its cons, but I think there are also quite a bit of few pros and what you were in regards to what you were speaking.
I agree with you. I mean, like we're having our conversation right now, and I love the factor being that you, one, sent me a voice note. I was like, wow, that is so very authentic and so, so very, just down to earth. And I'm gonna, talk to you and reach you. And I love that you did that, and it really did speak volumes to me about who you are. And that's our baby. That's the 1.5-year-old right there. But one of the things that I do want to explore even more is that you are an everything love coach.
Yes.
So can you explain what that is?
I think love is quite challenging to explain in just one word or just one phrase or even in 1 minute. I think that love, I've come to terms that love is the foundation of life. And love is a paradox. Love is truly everything. It's, for me, what I've experienced, and I think that this is the thing. Love is not, it's not defined by one thing or one experience or two or three. It's like this container. It's really like just this. It's a feeling, it's a verb, it's a noun, it's a phrase, it's something that just wraps around an experience. And this is truly, I think that this will be a journey until I leave this earth. Like, what is love, right? And what does love mean to me? And how do I want to be loved on this journey? And I think that the answer is very personal, because what I find loving, maybe somebody finds overwhelming or suffocating, or, depending on our human experience, it really truly varies. So it was quite interesting that we're talking about this too. I don't believe in coincidences, because I had a mastermind call and we were talking about, like, what does love mean to you? And everyone has a different experience of what love is. So my experience is that love is just everything, and love encompasses all of the emotions, all of the spectrum of feelings that we are here to feel. And when you come back to love, you remember that you already are loved. So you can never really be disconnected from it. And I think it's just this idea and this misconception that we are somehow like that we can ever be disconnected from us. But if we don't know that we are loved, we are constantly seeking it outside. So we're looking for that validation. We're codependent. We have those anxious attachments, those different types of attachments that we're not even going to go into, because that is like another Instagram live in and of itself. But I like to just pose the question and just present it to people, like, what does love mean to you? Because I think love at one point got a really bad rep, and people started hating on love, or just being like, love isn't available to me. It's like, no, like the type of love that you've been sold by the media, by whatever outside of you, of course, yeah, perhaps it's not available to you, but it's not because it's not available to you and it's just not available to you alone. It doesn't exist. It's a love.
That's true.
It's a love that's unreal. It's a love that is just like a fantasy, right? And so when we start to kind of break down all of the elements of love and what it means to us, it's ever evolving, it's ever changing. And you can ask yourself, like, have I ever felt love? Have I ever loved myself? Have I ever connected to this emotion, to this noun, to this verb, to this feeling, to this all-encompassing boat of what life has to offer, and an extension of who I am? So I could go on and on and on, but I'll stop there, because I feel like this is really what I do, right? In my profession. It's not who I am, it's what I do, and as I guess, yeah, professionally.
Yeah.
And I also extend it into my personal life. I teach people and I remind myself over and over and over that in order to feel good, in order to enjoy, and in order to be able to access that play and that pleasure, it's important to come back to love and integrate all of these parts of ourselves that we were told are not good, not acceptable, bad, ugly, not enough, whatever. And then once you bring it all home, you come back to love, you come back to yourself, and then you're able to access the pleasure and the play. Because otherwise, you're still in survival mode.
I love I love exactly where you're coming from. One of the things, when you guys go on her page, you'll see that she talks about self-love in a lot of your different lives, and, in your previous shows, your previous IG shows, you talk about love and how important that it is to have self-love. And I agree with that on so many different levels, because when we talk about our childhood and who we were as kids, I know for myself, I was always told that I was too sensitive, and that I wore my heart on my sleeve. I was too gullible. And so I learned my best to try to not be that way. I try to harden myself. I try not to be as sensitive. I try not to be as soft. Try not to cry so much. And then I grew, over time, especially when you have adults saying that to you, who you're looking up to, over time I grew to not like that girl. So then you have to, in order to embrace your inner childhood, you have to be able to love that little girl that you were told, wasn't any good, was too sensitive, too gullible. So how do you get to that point of being able to say, I embrace who she was. I want to connect to who she was. It's really, really hard to connect to who she was if you don't like her, if you've grown to hate her, if you've grown to feel, even if you don't hate her, you've grown to feel distance to her. So when you talk about self-love, I feel like that is is quite essential to being able to reach your inner child, to being able to connect to that place of pleasure, and being able to connect to that place of play. Because if I don't know how to love me, I don't know how to embrace who I was as a child and who she was, I'm not going to really be able to find a place of pleasure. I'm just going to be, doing the arcade for a little bit, going, oh, that's not really fun for me. Let me go golfing. Oh, that's not really fun for me. That's how you get people who go on vacation, and they come back from vacation and they're still worn out. They're still upset. They're still frustrated, because that was really an opportunity to have that sacred space of reaching their inner child and connecting to who they were. But because they spent so much time distancing themselves from their inner child, they don't know how to love that person. They don't know how to connect with that person.
Yeah.
So I feel like what you're saying, and I know what you're saying, love is so very important. It's so very essential to our humanness and to our humanhood. And for us to be able to connect with each other, we need love.
Yeah. And there are two things that I want to say to what you just said right now. One is, when we go on vacation, if you think about it, there are a lot of people who are afraid of going on vacation. They won't say, I'm scared of going on vacation, but they just won't take time off, because what happens when you're not working? What happens when you're not busy? That's when all of the stuff that you've been suppressing comes up to the surface, and it's like, hey girl, what's up? It's me. You forgot about me, but I didn't forget about you.
It's true.
So really the vacation, I'm getting chills right now. The vacation ends up being this, like, really could end up being like this moment of just confronting what's in front of you and what you've been ignoring all the time, which inner child comes out, all of these patterns, all of these cycles, all of these things. And you're just like, get me out of here, because I do not want to be here.
Yes.
I do not want to deal with this. And then to the other part of self-love is I'm really, like, I don't want to say bummed out, but it's like, I wish that self-love wasn't as, like, buzzy as it's been. Like, I'm really grateful that it's gotten out there, just the way I'm grateful the word trauma and, healing have all gotten out there. But that's the thing with social media. Once a word comes out, it goes viral.
Yes.
And it's like everything is about that. So it's like, there's so many phases and so many stages to living this human experience that there's no right or wrong. Like, you can't mess up. There's no way that you can mess it up. Like, even if I always go, like, to the extremes. Like, even if you've been in jail, if you've done something that's, like, against the law or whatever, it's like, if you can take that moment and then turn it around and be like, I really learned something from this, I really think that you can move forward. But making the choice, deciding that you're going to go into this process, it's a really big deal. And not a lot of people have the audacity to go into it, because once you go into it, there's no turning back. There's no turning back.
That's true.
You can't unsee what you've already seen. And then your brain is already like, I'm digging this. And I'm out there and I'm looking for more patterns. I'm looking for more things. So there can also be this vicious cycle. So it's like, how do I find like this, what other word that can sometimes be just like, again, super trendy. How do I find that balance, right? Between like, that space and of like going into my healing or whatever you want to call it, and allowing myself to just have some fun to go into this human experience. But there's so many layers, so many layers.
I love that you said layers. It always takes me back to Shrek. I shared on here some time ago about Shrek, and he was talking to Donkey about the parfait and the onion, and he's like, ogres have layers. And you have Donkey, and he's like, you're talking about parfait because those are sweet and this and that. And I believe that each one of us has different kind of layers, but the reality is that even if it starts off looking like a parfait and tasting like a parfait, you're going to get to the onion. And you're going to have to deal with it. And so I'm glad that you did bring that up. Recently, my husband and I, we had a conversation about our subconscious and how, like, right when things are going so good for you, going so good, something from the past will kind of like seep up from that unconscious. And it's really your unconscious saying, hey, you're in a good mood. You've been playing. You've been happy. You've been really enjoying yourself. And I feel like you're ready for this. I feel like you're ready for, to dissect this and heal from it. And really depending on how we take it, like if we take it and it makes us really, really depressed and we spiral and we're like, we're not ready for it, it gets shoved like right back into your subconscious, but you're going to have to deal with it eventually. It's going to come right back up again. And, if you make too much of a routine of just shoving it and shoving it and shoving it, you're not going to really get a chance to grow. You're not going to get a chance to really fully come to a place of find out what your pleasure is, what your play style is, who you are, reaching to your inner child and really connecting and having wholeness. And you're just going to have so many suppressed memories. And I agree. Layered cake is another example of layering. But yeah, you've got to peel it back to really find out who you are essentially.
Yeah, 100%. And the thing is, like, this process never ends. It's never, ever ending. And once I've had these thoughts where I'm just like, I think I got this. I think I'm like, like this is it. Like I made it to the base. I don't think that there's anything else that could come up. Well, at this point, my brain's like, what else? What else could come up? I've already seen everything. And then the tsunami comes and I'm just like, oh my God. Like what was I thinking? I was so naive to think that we were done. And, I also want to say that I know it's not going to be possible because there's always, again, the layers and the layers and the layers. But what I do want to say is, for those of you that are watching and you're like, well, I can't really get into play. Like I really struggle to get into play. This is really because we're wired to not be into play. It's kind of like we have this society, we're wired, one, and then the social conditioning is humongous. Like it has such a huge impact on the way we think, the way we feel, the way we think we're supposed to feel. And so I don't know about you, but the phrases that we hear growing up, like grow up, get a life, when are you going to start to act like an adult? You're not a kid anymore. Stop being so childish, all these things. It's like, you don't have to be childish. You can be childlike. Like when you're in play, right? Like when you're in play, you're childlike. You don't have to be in that state forever. Just like you don't have to be in the adulting phase forever. Can you imagine like wearing the same outfit every single day? Somebody would come and be like, girl, you've been wearing that outfit for like a month straight. I think it's time for you to wash it and change it to some other clothes because this is like,
It would be horrible. It would be horrible. I mean, like, one, because the idea of it, one, is just horrible. But then two, you don't really get a chance to explore the full range of option of style and fashion that can really define who you are, and just being able to try different looks and different colors. It would just be very bad. It would be very bad. So yeah, I fully agree with you. Wearing the same hat as far as, being in a child's position or being an adult all the time. I believe it was said best on, what was that? What movie is that? And The Shining. And he was just like, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. Like, just literally, like, you're going to go crazy just having to adult it all the time and trying to figure out this number and budget here and do this here. It's going to drive you up the wall. You need to be able to have some type of pleasure. I love that you have a post, and I did write it down. November 14th of last year, you wrote a post. You said your inner child needs some serious love. Play, laugh, run, squeal, cry, tantrum, and or cuddle. And I love it. I love it. Could you expand on that more?
Yeah.
Especially tantrum. I was like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. So I think sometimes we forget that who we are, like, this person that you see here, like, inside of me, there are different, this body is like a collection of all the me's that I've been.
Mm.
So there's Anna, teenager. Yeah.
That was
There's,
powerful. Yes, yes.
yeah. There's Anna teenager, there's Anna, toddler, there's Anna baby. And then, like, there's all these versions of me. I'm going to be 37 in a few weeks. So it's like all the versions of me until now in this moment, it's like, are inside me. And
Yes.
the parts of me that were not healed, the parts of me that were wounded along the way, which is inevitable. Everyone has this. So it's like, it's solely natural. Whenever something comes up, like, let's say you were talking and you say a comment and I feel really triggered. That's the sign. It's not, it's not that you're, can I swear here, or is it like a more
Yes.
okay.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
It's not like, oh, how dare she, RK's a bitch, right? It's like, we can go into that. Like, this is what I tell my clients, is like, when something hits, when there's like a shock, or when there's like, alcohol like being poured into the wound, it's like the first thing that happens is you're in shock, right?
Yeah.
And it's very common, it's very natural for you to spiral into victim. Just like, how dare she? What a bitch. How could she say this to me? Can't she see that I'm in pain? Da, da, da. And I tell my clients, allow yourself to go into that space, but don't stay there, right? It's like, don't neglect the part of the part of you that wants to play the role of the victim, which comes into the playing of the dolls, right? Like, there's these different versions of you, and they're all you, and they're all worthy of love. This is where we don't discriminate, right? We're not going to be like, you're good, I'm going to love you. You're bad, I'm not going to love you. No, we love all of us. And so
Yes.
once I recognize, like, oh, obviously she didn't mean that. She has no idea of my experience. She has no idea of the wounds that I'm carrying. So it's my responsibility to go inward and be like, why does this hurt so much? Why is this so painful? And then I talk to myself a lot. So I go in and I have a conversation with whatever emotion is coming up. So if it's anger, I'm like, hey, anger, where are you located right now? Let's just pretend like my heart center, right? Okay, yes. I feel you right now. What do you want to share with me? And I just listen. Okay, thank you. What else? Thank you. What else? Thank you. What else? Until eventually this part of us that is hurting runs out of things to say, because we've given it the space to speak. And then it's like, it's integrated. It's been seen. It's like, oh, okay, I can chill now. Comes back. You're good. Move on with your day.
I love that. I love that. I feel like in our Western culture, We don't really emphasize or talk about that enough. When we talk about, when we go into Eastern cultures and other cultures, for the most part, there's this conversation with our body parts and with our inner parts. I mean, in Eastern culture, they even, talk about the parts of the feet and how it's related to your intestines and your liver and your kidney and the parts of the ear. But we don't really have those conversations in our Western realm. We're more just on the surface of what we see. And if you're sad, then let's give you this pill and let's have you in this therapy class and this session and this group class. And we don't really focus enough on, let's sit down with ourselves and really have that sacred moment, that sacred time of locating where that pain is and where that hurt is, so that we can really, in so many ways, have self-therapy. And like you said, giving that acknowledgement and that awareness to the pain or hurt that's there, so that that area can be heard. I feel like it's almost like, in so many ways, if you have a ghost in the house, and that ghost, I'm not talking about like a demonic ghost or anything like that, but one who just wants to be heard. So they're knocking down stuff, your keys go missing, the light is flickering, and it's just more of, I want you to know that I'm here. I want you to know that I have feelings, and that I just want to be heard. I want to be acknowledged. So when you say that, I'm like, I resonate with that so much.
Yeah, no, and that you're spot on with the ghost thing. It's like, going back to the tantrum part, I'll give yourself that space. I mean, I don't want to say like lock yourself in the closet, but if the closet feels like a safe space, do it. Do it in the privacy of your own presence, so that you don't feel like you have to give any explanation to other people. Like, why does it matter, right? Like, there's some things, it's like when you go to the bathroom, you don't really want a lot of people being in there, right? Because it's like a lot of stuff that's coming out that nobody needs to know of. Same thing, same thing with the emotions. It's like, it's such an intimate thing. Like, even with like crying or screaming or just like releasing whatever needs to come out, give yourself that space and that moment. It doesn't have to be like an hour. Maybe it turns into an hour if you have that time allocated for it. But sometimes even 5 minutes is like, okay, we're going to do this right now. And then I'm going to carve out some time before I go to bed, or before I could put my kid, or after I put my kid to sleep, or whenever, right? But the thing is, we don't prioritize it. We don't prioritize it.
Right.
You're absolutely right. Like, in the Western world, we don't prioritize these things. And it's like, oh God, like, really?
We don't.
We're here again. You want to talk about this? Like, why can't we just do the damn thing? Why can't we just It's like, there's so much beauty in just like sitting down with somebody, whoever it is, your parent, your partner, your friend, someone close to you, someone that, said something and you're like, listen, this is not okay. Like, this really hurt me. And I know it's my responsibility to dig a little deeper, but I don't like to be taught this way. I don't feel respected this way. And I think this is another thing, which we can talk about it another time, but like, the fear of abandonment is so real that we are just so unwilling to have these difficult conversations, because we're like, they're going to leave me. They're going to leave me if I speak my truth. They're going to leave me if I tell them that they wronged me or they hurt me or whatever. And that is this thing about like people pleasing that comes way back from like the time where we were in the nomadic era. If your tribe didn't like you, they would pack up their stuff in the middle of the night. You were sleeping. They'd be gone by the time you wake up. And then a saber-toothed tiger would just come and eat you for dinner, right? That's how far it goes. So this like caring about what people think is not just like 21st century, 20th century bullshit. This is like legitimate. This is real. Like, the brain has been wired in this way. So can you imagine? Just like we're building it as a society, because we don't want to be outcasts. We don't want to be isolated, because you probably know you can't raise 10 children on your own.
No, not at all.
Yeah, no.
So, not at all. And I wish that we had more of the, what do they say? It takes a village to raise a child. And unfortunately, we don't have that anymore. Our culture has become more digital, and we've migrated. And even in the same city, we still don't really connect on the same level. So, my husband and I, we depend on each other a whole lot to be able to get things done. When it comes to being able to manage 10 little ones, with 10 very different personalities. From the time that we get up, their agenda is different than my agenda, and so so that's just the reality of it. Is that the idea of being abandoned, like you said, is something that is definitely ingrained within us. I would say even with them, that's something that's ingrained with them. That's why they're fighting so much to have their own control on different things, because if I can have my control, I'm the leader and I won't get abandoned. And I feel like that's, the case with us as the adults in our own personal relationships, is that we don't want to be abandoned. But you brought up something that was so key, and I don't have it in my questions, but you ignited this idea and concept in my mind, as far as sometimes our fear of abandonment can be so deep to where we find ourselves almost connecting more with our hobby of choice or with our play, because we know, like our dolls, for example, we may spend more time with our dolls because we know an inanimate object won't leave. So I can cling to my play, whatever it may be, going out golfing, playing basketball, going swimming, whatever it is that gives you that pleasure, hanging out even with girlfriends, can become a place of, of security, to the point where I know this won't leave. I know that if I stay connected to this, I don't have to really deal so much with the reality of what's going around around me. And I believe, like, what we're really digging into in our conversation is the importance of still hashing out what's going on in your subconscious, and being able to come to that place, like you said, of self-love, reaching that inner child, being able to make those connections on the inside of you by listening to all your feelings. And I love that you talked about that, even because I listened to your previous shows, and you talked about being able to feel your feelings, like not ignoring them, not avoiding them. And that's so key. That is so very key. Like, I can't really enjoy life or enjoy the adventure or journey if I don't allow myself to feel the feelings of hurt. Like, it hurts. No one wants to cry, especially about something that may have happened like 8 years ago, or even yesterday. No one wants to have those tears, but it's necessary. It is so very necessary.
Yeah. And, I want to say something, because talking about, feeling seen, I'm reading this book, and it said something that I have felt with the feeling and the emotion of sadness. And it said, I'm so, something along the lines, I don't remember like verbatim, but it said something along the lines of like, I'm so afraid of feeling this way because I don't know when it's going to leave. And so when I read that, I was like, I did not know that somebody else felt the same way that I did, because that's how I feel about sadness. There is this fear and anxiety that comes up for me whenever sadness is like, when I, like when you're at, I don't know if you've ever been to the beach, but I grew up here. So I always give like water and sea analogies. There's this like big wave coming, and you see it, and you're like, fuck, like, how is this gonna go down? Like, am I gonna, like, how long am I gonna be rolling in the water, somersaulting inside the sea? When am I gonna be able to come up for air? And that is exactly how I feel when I know that there's a wave of sadness coming. I'm like, I cry, and I feel very resistant to it, because I'm like, when are you going to leave? Like, I don't want you to stay here forever. And it's really interesting when we become the observer of, and we just witness what we are experiencing, rather than just being like, no, I'm not going to feel it. But it's just like, I'm noticing myself feeling resistant towards sadness. And yeah, it's a very interesting process, because you don't really get attached to it anymore. And if there's something that I can say about emotion and just moments and life in general. It's like you come to this earth as a whole by yourself, right? Even though, yes, we are part of a collective, we are all one, all that stuff. There is this paradox that you come here alone and you leave on your own.
Sure.
So what I want, where I'm going with this is like, be your best friend. Be the person that knows yourself the most. Be the person that is just willing and open to have these beautiful and amazing experiences, because you don't know when you're going to leave. You don't know how long you're going to be here. So it's very easy to want to attach to so many things. And I notice myself when I want to go and like control and everything, but instead I'm like, there's nothing to control here. That I can just bask in this moment, and I can just really like let myself immerse in the ocean, in the sea, and let the waves play with me. And if I just relax and I let the waves play with me, I will come up to the surface, rather than if I resist and I'm fighting the waves and I'm fighting the current. No, if I let the waves carry me, I will eventually surface up or end up on the shore. So,
Oh,
so I love this.
that's such a good. I had so many thoughts, which is off of what I even wrote, but I had so many thoughts when you were describing sadness and the resistance of. I thought of sadness as like an unwanted guest,
Mhm.
like literally banging at your door, coming in, and you're just like, no, 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 I don't want you in here. I don't know how you're gonna be here. I'm not really ready for you to be here. And then even when you talk about the wave and tumbling in this wave, and I feel that when we don't allow ourselves to go through the emotion and through the spirals and everything else, this is how we see so many of our people just drown in sadness and drown in depression. And then we get these reports, of course, that are heartbreaking, because we weren't able to get through the emotion of sadness, or through the emotion of anger. And you get reports of people doing all kinds of wild and crazy stuff because they didn't allow themselves to process through it. And I love that you brought that up as far as just personifying what we feel in our human emotion, so that we can kind of like see it, just like you said, is separate from ourselves, and be able to kind of like manage that relationship better, because you are gonna have those emotions. That's what makes us who we are. That's what makes us human. So I love that you said that. That really did. That gave me so many different thoughts of how to really tackle, even deal with my own emotions when they come up. And you do that. You share on your page how to be able to overcome certain emotions that you feel. If you're feeling anxiety, I love the one that you had about tapping and being able to tap different parts of your body. And you shared on different ways to be able to have pleasure. And what really, really got me, you were like, flirt with yourself in the mirror, flirt with a stranger. I was like, oh, flirt with your partner, and just being able to, caress your skin, just letting your imagination take over, and taking dance class. And you didn't just talk about taking dance class. You yourself are involved in pole dancing,
Yeah.
correct? How's that going?
Well, it's kind of an interesting dynamic. I went for a couple of classes, and then for some reason I was like, okay, I'm just gonna try some other things too. So I started doing like different types of like sensual dances, because I was like, okay, I don't know if you've ever done pole dancing, but it's really
I'm not.
painful. I have really sensitive inner thighs, so my body was kind of like, let's just take a break from like the climbing and the all these things. And so I started also playing with the concept of just like being seen in my sensuality. So I went to this woman's class, and I was like, oh my gosh, like she is so much, like she is in her body, and like the way she just like touches herself and like plays with her hair and is just like very flirty and very feminine and all of that. And I'm just like, I want to be like that, like I want to tap into that part of myself. And so I hired her to give me a private class, and it was so interesting. All of the things that came up, like all of the thoughts, again, that stuff of like, what are people going to say? I don't want her to think that I'm being too much, da 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 da, all these things. And I was like, I told her, I was like, I'm about to like burst into tears right now, but I'll wait because I want to like process this on my own. But I was constantly just like very frustrated, felt like I was like banging my head up against the wall almost. And but it's just part of trying something different. And when
Yeah,
we want to do something different, when we want to get out of our comfort zone, it's like, let's just try these new things without the goal of like, it has to look this way, it has to X, Y, and Z, you know. And that's that I found that I just have a lot more fun when I do that, when I just do what I want to do. And you know, yeah, there's a mix of discipline and fun and you know, just variation and whatever, but it's like there's no right or wrong way to do it. It's just a matter of doing it.
I agree. I agree with you so much. And you know, when we talk about listening to what our emotions are saying and feeling the feelings, you listen to what your body was saying. Your body was like, you know what, this is, a little bit too much on our inner thighs. We're not ready for it. But in the same hand, what other avenues and opportunities and experiences can we, and get ourselves involved in so that we can be more in touch with our femininity. So it wasn't like you got off track. You just chose a different route. And I don't think anything's wrong with that at all.
Yeah.
I myself was looking into burlesque courses before and I think it's like chair dancing.
Yeah.
I was looking into that because, you want to, feel that nice, just flirtiness with yourself. And, you have a partner in your life, being able to experience that enjoyment with them is also really important. So I don't think anything's wrong with it at all. Like I said, it's something that I have looked into myself, and I definitely plan on doing at some point in time. And that's also a part of play, a part of pleasure as well. I feel like, unfortunately, a lot of strippers do make it look easy, and it's not as easy.
No, it's not.
It's not as easy as they make it look. They slide up and down the pole, and they have such great ability to hold on to it with their thighs and just let go. And it's like, wow, how are you able to do that? And it looks easy, but it's really, really not. Even when it comes to the chair dancing, I was like, oh, that's so simple. And I try to do some things by myself, and I was like, wow, I almost fell on my head, and I was like, I'm not as coordinated as I thought I was. So. But I believe that it's important. It's so important to just allow yourself, like you said, you do want to be disciplined. You do want to, practice and rehearse and everything, but you need to have fun. One of the things I see with our kids, and, like I said, we got 10 of them, they're having fun. There's a lot of different times where they may be playing or, they're dancing or they're doing this, and they may trip and they fall and they laugh and they get right back up and they just keep on going. And I think that as adults, we lose that aspect. So whenever we're playing, whatever, hobby that we may have or whatever, play that we're doing, if we mess up, we get extremely critical. And it becomes almost like detrimental. And then we're like, I'm not going to do it anymore. I tried to do chair dancing. My foot got caught up in the chair and I fell. I got embarrassed. Even if you're by yourself, it's just like, I got embarrassed. I'm not going to do it anymore.
Yeah.
And so we limit ourselves by just allowing ourselves to get, so shameful for something that was just designed to have fun with.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, I mean, yeah, it's like falling down and then it's like, who saw me, right? It's like, who cares? Who cares? And the more the more time passes by for me, because I'm very much in this space where I'm like living fully intentionally. Like there's just like so much intention behind the things that I do, behind the things that I say, that I'm just like, yeah, and yeah, I'm human. Sometimes I fall out of that intention, or for some whatever reason I get triggered and I react instead of like pausing. That's fine, right? But I know how to make amends for it. And one thing that I've been, and I share this in my private Facebook group, I'm like sharing this with the women. I'm like, why do you do what you do? Like, why do you put on mascara? Like, I'm gonna be like super like basic, right? Like, why do you put on mascara? Why do you put on earrings? Why do you style the way your hair, the way that you style it? Is it because someone told you that that's the way you're supposed to do it, or because you actually like the way you look. And I'm coming into this phase where I'm like, where everywhere I go and, we're talking, and then I'm like, yeah, when I was younger, and people are like, how old are you? And they always think I'm in my 20s. And I'm like, I'm 37. And they're like, what? No way. But the thing is, going back to the love concept, I made a decision a few years back, and I said to myself, I'm going to love myself, and I'm going to accept myself as much as I possibly can, so that I can give this vehicle, this body of mine, the best treatment I possibly can. So I mean, no shade to anyone that's ever gotten Botox or surgeries or anything like that, but I've never gotten any surgeries. I've never done Botox. I've never done like anything to change my physical body, because I'm like, this is what I got, right? Like, this is what I got. And I'm grateful for it. So instead of physically altering it, I'm like, I'm gonna go deeper than that. And I started even asking, like, because I started getting like, I don't even know what these are called. They're kind of, I guess they're kind of like freckles, but a little bit bigger. And so this in the beauty industry is kind of like, let's, even your skin tone. And I was like, why do I even care about having an even skin tone?
Beauty marks.
Yeah.
That's what I say they are. Beauty marks.
Exactly. But you know what? I'm like, I love the way my face looks. I feel better than I've felt in years. And I'm like, I'm not gonna like, I can't think of another word, but like bow down to this beauty standard that who fucking knows who made up. And now it's this like international thing that you can't have spots on your face. I'm like, what the hell is this ridiculousness? Like, no, I'm unsubscribing to this concept, and I'm unsubscribing to this idea that I have to follow some rules, because they don't even make sense to me. They don't even align with my standards. So bye.
I agree. And you have to, and it goes all the way back to, what you were saying as far as having that foundation of love, having that foundation of oneness with yourself, and having that self-love, because we're constantly inundated with information between society and what's on TV, and even, quite honestly, family members that are saying, oh, you know what, why don't you, go ahead and thin this out, or why don't you go ahead and, I recently had a conversation with my mom about my eyebrows even, and I was like, no, I'm fine with my eyebrows. Like, I don't want to do anything extra to my eyebrows. They are what they are. Because I've always been told that I had bushy eyebrows. I was told that from family members. I was told that from people I went to church with. Just random people would tell me at times, like, your eyebrows are real thick and they're bushy. And so there was a portion of time, and I have pictures where I had like extremely pencil thin eyebrows from arching them. And then I just came to a point where I just stopped. My relationship with my husband, I feel very secure in the loving dynamics that we have, because he's constantly always like reinforcing, like, you're beautiful, you don't need to do all that. And I just stopped. I just stopped arching them. I stopped going to get them arched. And now, of course, thicker eyebrows are now more trendy, great, wonderful. Now I'm being told, like, hey, why don't you can you guys turn off that phone? You have to like turn it on and then turn it off. Thank you so much. But I went ahead and I'm like, I'm not going to do anything. This is what my eyebrows are. I'm comfortable with it. I don't have any reason to, but I believe that a lot of things that we feel is based off of, like I said, what society is saying, what TV is saying, what family members are saying, what church members are saying, what school members are saying. And oh my God, middle school, that one is like, middle school just like can ruin you almost for the rest of your life if you don't find a way of healing from that, because you're getting it from guys that are still, maturing and growing and learning who they are, and females that are learning and maturing and growing into who they are. I'm telling you that could be like a horrible place for you as far as really building your self-confidence. So, I mean, like, you're so on point. You just have to come to a place of being like, I accept me for me. This year I'm going to be 41. So I'm with you when you say about coming to that place of just being like, and everyone's different. If someone desires to get plastic surgery, or, especially like if you have an accident and you require, some type of plastic surgery or something of that nature, that's different, but for me personally, I just want to age naturally. I want to see what, by the grace of God, I'm still here. I want to see what 80-year-old Rashida looks like, what 80-year-old Darren looks like. I want to see what we look like when we get old, just naturally. So
Yeah.
I agree with you, but it definitely does. It takes that level of self-love because there's so much coming at you. I don't know about the beauty standards with men, but as women, we have so much coming at us to reach a level of perfection.
Yeah. Yeah. Big time. I agree. And I think your eyebrows are beautiful right now. So
Thanks.
I'm glad you did what you did and just let him be.
Let them be. That's exactly, just let them be. Let them be. And actually, I just recently, when you talk about wearing makeup, now I was wearing makeup and I was just wearing it because I was like, I just want to have fun with it and just, just wear it just for fun. And then I watched a documentary because we homeschool, and I watched a documentary with my kids about mica. And it just blew my mind about the child labor that was involved to get this mineral mica that's in basically all of our makeup. And so I was like, okay, I'm not going to wear any more makeup. At first I was like, I'm just going to wear my stuff until I get some makeup without, this non-mica. And it just didn't feel right. So like I recently just stopped wearing it, and like my lip liner right now, it doesn't have mica in it. My lip gloss doesn't have mica in it. It's like that. Like now I'm like checking things to see if it has mica in it. So it's like no foundation, no nothing. And I feel great about it. I'm like, this is an experience of just, being able to constantly evolve into who I am. And it was something that you said earlier. I'm so off script, but that's okay. It's something that you said earlier that really did stick to me about knowing how you want to be loved. And it came to me like at different stages of your life, you want to be loved different. It's like the way that I was loved at 11 is not the way that the 40-year-old me wants to be loved. And I love that you said that it did. It's just like it sparked like so much in me. Like, wow, that is so very true. And quite honestly, like the way that I need to be loved probably 2 years from now is not going to be the same as far as like the love that I need right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And those
You
are
have a very
conversations.
powerful coaching field. I love it.
Thank you. Yeah, I consider myself to be someone who walks the talk, and I have people around me that hold me accountable, and I ask them to, because I'm like, I don't want to be a phony. I don't. Then that's the thing. Like I have this like love-hate relationship with social media, because I'm like, I don't know if I'm giving people enough context in a reel. Like I don't know if like I feel like it's and our attention span is getting like shorter and shorter with time, that I'm just like, I don't know. But I set an intention. I'm just like, whoever this is meant to help, it will get to,
Yes.
it will do what it needs to do. So I can just trust that's going out, and whoever needs to find it will find it. Like, even if it's like a 5-year-old video, or who knows, right? So
I love that. I love that. And you did share tips on how to bring more pleasure and play into your life, such as taking yourself less seriously, which is very, very true. Spending time with your friends, flirting with yourself in the mirror, flirting with strangers, taking yourself out on a date. And that one was interesting. I put a little story by that one because before I met my husband, he had talked about how he was taking himself out on dates before we had met. We both made a list before we met of what we wanted in our partner. And I had made my list like almost a year before we met. I had like 41 things because I'm a female, so I want everything. And then like 2 weeks before we met, I had narrowed my list down to 3 things. I wanted someone that was spiritual, someone that was sensitive, and someone that was humorous. And he had made his list, I want to say, a week before we met. And then we ended up meeting, and we ended up like seeing each other in church. And when I was at Kentucky Kingdom working, just like, and when I used to go out to the club and I was dancing drunk on the bars, he saw me back then. I just didn't see him. But at first I was like, no, you didn't see me. And he was like, yeah, you had Jell-O shots. And I was like, you did see me. You did. You had a cowgirl hat. I was like, it was me. So there were just different points where we had saw each other, but it took us being intentional in our list and coming to a place of just enjoying the journey. Like I was going bowling, which I wasn't really doing, and just like enjoying life. And he was going out on dates by himself, and then we end up meeting. So it's just like things that you may have out there that you're asking for may really come to you once you get to a place of just enjoying the journey, just having, having that playful time, having that pleasure. It can really just open up so many things for you that, you can manifest those things in your life by just chilling out. And you don't even realize it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree 100%.
I love it. I love it. So then you said about caressing your skin, let your imagination take over, flirt with a partner, and take dance class. One of the things that I do want to talk to you about before we leave together is about the singing bowls. I have my little miniature singing bowl.
Mm.
I I am actually certified as a vinyasa yoga instructor. I don't really get a chance to do it as much, but still have my certification in it. And that's what got me into the singing bowl. Was once when I started, getting into yoga and really learning about the culture of yoga, the history of it, and learning about sounds and frequencies. I was like, let me get my singing bowl. And I really want to like upgrade and have different ones because each one has its own sound and vibration that it brings. You do singing bowl sessions. Like, how did you get involved in it, and what are the benefits?
Okay, so I'm also a yoga teacher. I got certified to be a yoga teacher. That's where I also started. So not surprised that you are going down this route because I mean, you said you go to church and like something about church is like musical, right? There's a lot of music, there's a lot of singing and choir and beautiful, right? So
Yeah.
um, I've always been like music has always been a big part of my life. Always, 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 always. And so it was very natural to me to just kind of go down that route. And my mom actually was the first one to get me a sound, it's like a similar to like a sound bowl for Christmas one year. And I remember I was I was teaching yoga. And then at the end where you lay down in Shavasana, that's where I would just,
Yes.
play my bowl. And I just wanted to give my students that experience of floating into whatever dimension or wherever they needed to go in that space and offer them just an extra hug through just the power of sound. So this has evolved. Obviously, ended up getting certified in something that I had no idea what it was until I was actually there. And it's really interesting because what I got certified in is love through sound. So it's like love has
Wow.
been this recurring theme in my life. So it's very interesting. And I mean, I do sessions virtually and I do sessions in person. I currently live in Mexico City and I travel often to Dallas. So whenever I get a chance, I go to my hometown. I go to Mexico. I do them in Mexico City, and obviously in the States, wherever I am, I offer them. Right. So this is
Okay.
the thing, like we're energy, right? Like if you don't have to be woo woo. If you're like super science based or really woo woo or in the middle or wherever you are on the spectrum, you need to know and remember that we are energy because we're made of molecules and atoms, and molecules are made of electrons, protons, and neutrons. And what are those?
Yes.
Period. And so you don't have to be with someone physically to help them with whatever they need help with. That's why,
Yes.
the power of intention, the power of sending love, sending light, sending energy, thinking of someone. And instead of saying, oh, poor, person, you empower them. And you're like, I know that they're going through a rough time right now, but I'm going to send them strength and I'm going to send them bravery and courage and love and just hope that they're going to get through this. And so that's really what I do. Like I love helping people through this really subtle but powerful tool that is sound. So
I, I love that. I love that. I believe so much. We create this division when we start talking about energy, and some people go, "Whoa, that's a little bit too far for me." Especially when we talk about being in church or being someone that's in a different religion or anything of that nature. I for one, am definitely involved with energy because that's what we are. Energy cannot be created nor destroyed. We talk about spirit, and we talk about, for those of us that believe in the Holy Spirit, spirit is still energy. Everything is just energy. And I mean, like, energy just, and I just got done listening to Dr. Wayne Dyer like yesterday and even this morning, and he was talking about energy. I mean, energy just flows all around us. And I, I feel kind of like, I don't know, I feel kind of odd whenever people don't understand energy. I don't really, I don't know. Like, for me, I feel that you don't have to have so much of a science background to really grasp that. And it shouldn't really be this division, because even if we come from a biblical stance, Jesus had healed someone. He healed, I think, the centurion soldier's servant without even being there. He was like, you could just say the words and my servant will be healed. And he said the words. He didn't have to go to the house and do it. So we don't always have to be physically together for healing to take place, or for there to be an empowerment to take place. That can happen just like what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be. I'm sorry. Hold on,
Yeah,
real quick.
you're fine.
Hold on. Okay, let's get that. Hold on. Hold on. Let's try to see what time it is. Hold on. All right. So you're going to come right here, and you're going to stand right there. Right there. All right. My apologies. I have 4-year-old twins. My little twin boy is getting a little bit upset. You stay right there. All right. So, but yeah, I feel that we don't have to be physically together for there to be a change to take place. Because if we do believe in the factor being that we are alive and that we exist, then we need to also believe that energy is a real thing.
Yes.
And that energy is constantly around us, constantly moving, can't be created, can't be destroyed. And that's just the bottom line to it. So
Great.
I agree with you. Now, I do have one more question before my little ones end up making me have to get offline. My one more question I do have is, how did you end up, like, what is your background? How did you end up becoming an everything love coach?
Oh my gosh. You know, it was just something that happened because I feel like it had to happen. I went to college. I graduated with a bachelor in nutrition science, and then from there I went into the Institute of Integrative Nutrition for I became a coach when it was like very like taboo to be a coach. Like, it was like, what are you doing? Nobody knows what a coach is. Like, why are you taking this risk, right? My mom said that. And so I was like, I don't want to work in like cafeterias and hospitals. It's like the food there is gross. I'm like, why would I work there? Like, I had like a 1 semester or something that I was doing. Then I was like, this sucks. I hate it. Like, I don't even know why people are in here. They're not even fit. People are like overweight. I'm like, what is this? Like, I just could not make sense of it in my brain. So once I started going down the route of just all the integrated on the integrative path, I ran into functional medicine, which is grabbing the problem by the root cause. And so here is where I just went down the rabbit hole. And I was like, absolutely. Like, I need to know the root cause of things. And so from there, I went into generational trauma training. I went into yoga, meditation, all of these things. And in my experience, emotions are everything. Like, emotions are like the cause of illnesses, like the repression, the suppression of these. Like, what are you not seeing? So it's being manifested through the body. And I have yet to find a case, a situation that somebody brings to me that I'm like, yeah, this is emotionally related. And there again, like we talked about earlier, like there's so many layers, and trauma to play, your ancestry, all of that stuff goes into play. Like, all of the things, the way your MO, the way you live through life, the way you just like wake up. Like, are you living through intention, or is it just kind of like a zombie? Like, are you even awake?
That's
Are
right.
you asleep? are you conscious? So yeah, I just question a lot of things, and I put myself also in sometimes I obviously keep myself very safe, but I am willing to have these uncomfortable conversations because I want to learn more. I want to be more open. I don't know everything. And so I want to learn more. I want to learn as much as I can. I'm an avid learner. And if somebody tries to shame me in the process, I'm just like, I'm learning. Do you like nobody knows everything on this world, in this world. And so,
That's true.
yeah. So I think that that's just something that I've adopted to become just like this eternal student of life and people. I feel
Yes.
that one has something to teach me. And through the presence and the power and the intention of love, I think that it can be achieved. I think that if you and I connect through something else other than love, it just wouldn't feel right. If we're defensive, or if we're like trying to prove each other wrong or whatever, like there's no agenda here, right?
Or connecting through gossip and connecting through, being against being against other people, like it's us and then it's them. Because the reality is, if you connect through gossip, some part of you will feel like when we're not together, are you talking against me?
Yeah.
Am I talking against you? Because of the way that we connected. But if we're connecting through love, and there's always that flow, and it's authentic, then even when we're separate, I know that I'm not, I'm not saying anything against you. I know that you're not saying anything against me, because we have a mutual understanding of love.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm fully with you, and I'm fully with you as far as like being an eternal student. There was someone, and we just saw the quote, and I can't think of his name. Ralph Emerson,
Yeah,
I want
yeah,
to say.
yeah.
He has a quote that's like, every athlete had to be an amateur. Everyone has to start from somewhere. And the reality is, even if we're 60 or we're 70, the way that this world continuously changes in technology, we need to always be a student to those that are younger, because they catch hold of stuff so quick, and we need to learn from them. There's no way we can be like, because I grew up during a time when we were filing stuff. We were putting documents into the file and put it in the file cabinet. Boom, you're done. I'm still trying to learn, like, hey, you don't have to file everything. Everything's more digital now.
Yeah.
Of course, I still have to have the paperwork in case something crashes. But things are just done different. And we need to be able to always be open to receiving that. When I used to work at the daycare, and the kids would get, and this was when I was an undergraduate student, the children would get new toys. And some of the toys I didn't know how to operate. So I would just hand it to like one of my 1.5-year-olds or my 2-year-olds and let them do it, because they just automatically knew it. They didn't have to play with it long. They just turned it around and boom, they got it operating. So it's so important for us to always keep an open mind to learn from each other, no matter how old someone is. The wonderful thing that I've received in teaching our kids in a homeschool setting is being able to receive information from them. Like when we have our documentaries that we watch, or a book that we've read together, having that discussion time and hearing their perspective on things, like, what do you think of this? And, what did you learn from this? And just hearing what they gain from it, because it gives me insight.
Yeah.
And it helps me go, wow, that's, I didn't think of that, or I did think of that, or, and we add on to it. It's so important to always remain a student.
Yeah.
You never want to get to a place where you go, I know it all.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
I have just really enjoyed our conversation. I thank you for just being patient with me in this, in me and all of my my little ones here. I have one that keeps trying to get into the screen over here.
That's totally fine. No need to thank me.
But I tell you, me growing as a parent has been something that, like, this right now wouldn't even be possible without them being in my life. Because although I worked with kids for many, many years, and following my undergraduate years and going into being a graduate student, I was a teacher for a portion of time. I feel like I've done more growth from being a parent and really having to seek a time of play. Because when I was teaching, I didn't really need a time for play. You know what I mean? I came home and I would get on my Xbox, we didn't have Xbox back then, PlayStation. I would get on my PlayStation, and, whatever I felt like doing, I just did. I was a dance instructor as well. So I would teach dance, and, life was just, it had like this nice free flow. But now that things are more constricted as far as time, play has become more important. Having that time of pleasure, that sacred time to just allot for myself has become even more important. So it's interesting how something like your kids or whatever it is that's in your life that may feel kind of constricting or has really created a change in your life can really open you up to find out more about who you are and really give you more of an opportunity for self-love, because I feel like I have a stronger connection and a growing connection with my inner child and just self-love, period, because of them.
That's really beautiful.
Thank you. I thank you. I hope that we're able to have more conversations, because this has been really enlightening for me.
Thank you.
And then we're both yoga instructors, and I am always looking for someone to be able to talk shop with about that.
Absolutely.
I mean, like, I find it really, I think there's only like one other person one other person who I've actually spoken to that's a yoga instructor that was just, willing to just talk and just conversate. I really don't find as many people who talk about it. And then there's, people who are kind of afraid to get into yoga. So, and then there's some people who are just more, they go to yoga classes, but they're not yoga instructors.
Yeah.
So I really would just love to just be able to just sit down and chat. And it doesn't even have to be during a live, but just talk about the yoga experience.
Absolutely. Just let me know.
Oh, goodness. I would love to. I would love to. I thank you for allowing me your time today. Oh, gosh, this has been so enlightening. Like I said, you've given me so many different things to think about and to look at, especially, and this is just in review, being able to see your emotions as personified feelings and being able to live that out. Guys, you got to check out her page. There is just, if you haven't already been on her page, become a follower. Like I said, check out the video about tapping. That was just extremely mind-blowing for me. Something that is so needed, not just during the holidays, but anytime whenever you're feeling anxious and having to deal with different family members or just situations that can bring up that emotion of anxiety. I do have one question in regards to that video. Is that something that you would do? Would you do the tapping in your own private space, or would you do that even in front of the person that may be feeling that may be bringing up those anxious feelings for you, that may be causing you to feel triggered?
I would do it in my own private space, just so that you don't have to feel like you're censoring anything. Because I think a lot of times when we do it in front of people, certain things, we tend to be like, oh, I don't want to say this out loud because it might be, no, just be really honest and vulnerable. It's like you're not like confessing, but just like you're accepting the way you feel. And sometimes that can be uncomfortable to do it in front of someone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, because I wondered about that. Like, would that be something that I would just do, like, when I go to the bathroom or go, it's like a private space? Or, like, maybe I did it earlier, but then I'm talking to the individual and I'm feeling like that anxiety rise, so I just, like, excuse myself, or do I just go ahead and do the technique?
You can do it whenever you want to, but I recommend in the privacy of your own space.
I like that. I like that. And so in case you guys are going, what are they talking about? You have to check out the video. You have to check out the video. It's on her page. You have such wonderful, wonderful insight and information. And I just thank you, like I said, again, for allowing me to be with you in this time. And I enjoyed our conversation. So I'm definitely looking forward to conversating with you again.
I did too. Thank you so much. I also, every chat, every conversation is a learning experience for me. Thank you for allowing me to be on your platform as well. Thank you for, just having the space for people to learn more about emotions and that there are all the tools available, and just, you can't fuck it up. You can't fuck it up.
You can't. It's so true, and it's so easy to feel like you can.
Yeah.
It's so easy to mess up and be like, I messed up all the chapters of my life, instead of just being able to, just say that was a sentence that has a period and let's move on to the next paragraph. It's just very, very easy to feel like it's completely over because of a mistake. I do that. So I'm not just coming from like pointing a finger. I do that. And I was raised to be a perfectionist. I was raised at like a 3.8 is like a 3.0, which was like a 1 point something. So you have to have a 4.0. average. And so it's like I constantly was hard on myself and grading myself and involved in this club and involved in this because the goal is to have a well-rounded resume and, you know, well-rounded application for college, and just stressing myself out, you know, and it's really come to a place where even now I'm having to learn how to pace myself. And it's not easy when you come from that kind of background where you became what I guess like that super ego was so enlarged. It's definitely a process to be able to learn how to be more gentle with yourself. And for anyone who's going, well, how does this fit into play? Because if you are harboring any kind of negative emotions within yourself, you're not actually, if you're avoiding emotions and what you're feeling, it's going to be really, really hard to connect with that inner child. It's going to be really, really hard to connect with any kind of play or pleasure. So that's what this conversation was really about, is that if you want to get to that place of play or pleasure where it's really authentic and you're able to enjoy that process, you have to learn how to love you, how to, you know, really be able to embrace who you are. And like I said, check out our page, Anna C. Jones G. There's a wealth of information for you guys to learn and connect with her as a coach and become a client. So I thank you again for your time. We will be in touch.
Yes, we will. Thank you so much, RK. I'm sending you a big
Thank
kiss.
you.
Have a lovely
You too.
rest of your day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.